I'll just get started. So thanks for coming tonight on this cold February evening. One nice thing about Zoom, the pandemic is we've all learned how to Zoom, and now we don't have to go out in the snow to go to one of these training sessions. I'm here today to talk about what I know about how the local and state Democratic Party function. And I am currently Tippecanoe County Councilor for District 4, which is West Lafayette. And I'm going to share with you what I know. I will tell you that I do not consider myself an expert, but I've been doing a lot of research on this. And I think there's a lot of stuff people don't know because it's pretty oblique. And some of it is I know from personal experience, and some of it is I went on to the websites, the Indiana State Democratic Party website, and I also went on the Republican website and looked at the rules. So feel free to ask any questions while I do this. And with that, I'll get started. So when we think about the party and how the party is organized, and a lot of what I'm going to say for the Democratic Party is also true for the Republican Party. It starts off with, at the very local level, is your volunteer. And it starts off with a unit called the precinct. And I'll talk a little bit about what the precinct is in a few slides coming up. But precinct is just a small geographical area. From there, you have a precinct committee person. There's one per precinct, plus there may be a vice committee person. From there, there's a county committee and the county chair. So in Tippecanoe, we have Heather Maddox is our county chair. Then we have a vice chair, which is Steve Snyder. And then Michelle Richardson is our treasurer, and Michelle Wheatbrock is our secretary. They are elected by the precinct committee members and the vice precinct committee members every 4 years, and I'll talk about that in more detail as well. Above that is the district committee, and the district is consisting of a congressional district. So in Indiana, we have 9 of those. And those are elected by the chair, the party chairs, the county chairs, and the vice chairs. And they also have a vice chair. Then there's the state committee, which is composed of all the district chairs and the vice chairs, right? So there's 18 of them. There are the DNC members, which is the Democratic National Committee members. And then there's constituency caucuses. And I'll talk a little bit about more of all those as well. And then the state committee is elected, the state executive committee and the state chair, who is currently John Zodi, and we'll talk a little bit about that, are elected by that state committee members. Okay. So it's a hierarchy. I talked about the constituency caucuses in Indiana Democratic Party. We have 6 constituency caucuses that are statewide. So they have a vote at the state level. Those are the College Democrats, the Indiana Democratic African American Caucus, the Latino Caucus, Stonewall Democrats, which are the LGBTQ caucus, the Young Democrats, and then the Labor Caucus. One thing you don't see on here, which is a little bit, there was controversy at the last convention I was at. We don't have a women's caucus, and there's controversy whether that's actually needed at the Democratic Party level, where currently we do not have one. At the state party, I talked about the central committee. So here's John Zodi and Cordelia Lewis Burks are our current state chair and vice chair. There's also a secretary and a treasurer. There's a parliamentarian, there's legal counsel. They have deputy chairs and a finance chair. This is all the central committee. There's the 3 Democratic National Committee members that I talked about, the district chairs I talked about, and the constituency caucus. All right. So getting back to what a precinct is, because that is where, when you're really thinking about the grassroots of the party, that is traditionally been the precinct. And the precinct traditionally has been where the polling station, every precinct had a polling station. That's no longer, that's definitely not true in Tippecanoe County, though it might be true in some of the other counties in Indiana, because we are a vote center county, but we still have precincts. And when we report election data, the county reports election data, they will report it by precinct. And oh, excuse me, my husband's stepping into my office. So here is, here's downtown Lafayette, West Lafayette, and you can see there's like the Wabash Township has a bunch of precincts. Fairfield Township has a bunch of precincts. I'm going to show you the map. You can, anyone can go here to the county site, and this is the county precinct map. So you could look up where you live if you wanted to see where a precinct was. I can actually just zoom in. There are about roughly 115 precincts in Tippecanoe County. A handful of them, like maybe 3 or 4, don't have anyone that live in them, but most of them are actual voters in it. So this is the basic the basic grassroots unit of voting. Okay. So with that, throw my phone away. Can you let them in? The precinct committee people can be appointed a couple ways. One is you can be elected, and you're, oops, this is not correct. 2018. I'm sorry, this is wrong. 2018. You're elected in May of the midterm primary year. So the last time we elected precinct chairs was in May of 2018. You would just go to the county building like you were running for office in January. The dates vary a little bit, but it's basically January, early, maybe the first week of February. Fill out a form, and then you would show up on the ballot only if there's competition. Otherwise, you just become the precinct chair. Lots of times nobody runs for them, so a lot of precincts are empty. Once you're elected committee person, you have 30 days after your election to appoint a vice chair, and they must be the opposite gender. If you don't appoint a vice chair, the party chair will do that, can do that. Any vacancies that happen in the precincts, if someone moves or decides they don't want to do it anymore, that precinct chair can then be appointed by the county party chair. And that person serves at the pleasure of the county chair. So the county chair cannot remove elected committee people, but they can remove appointed committee people if you do something they don't like. So the other big difference is if you're appointed, you don't have to live in that district. So lots of times there'll be, maybe a husband and a wife that both want to be precinct chairs, but obviously they live in the same building. So lots of times one of those persons will end up in a different precinct getting appointed. The other thing about the precinct chair, and this is something that I've been working with a group around the state, is the county chair manages the precinct chair list and does not have to share it with the public. And I'll talk about that just a little bit more. But, the precinct chairs are the people that elect vacancies, and that those people's names do not have to be shared with the public. So I'm working with a group of people to try to change around the state, but we'll see. Your responsibilities as a precinct committee person is, and some of this I've got straight from the precinct committee handbook that the state produces, is you're serving as the main communication source between the Indiana Democratic Party and current and current and future Democrats in your precinct. So you're supposed to be their source of Democratic information, help get out the vote, registering voters, and those types of activities, especially around election season. You also, as I mentioned earlier, if there is an elected official and they can't serve out their full term, whether they move or for whatever reason, the party chair will call a caucus, and that means all the precinct chairs in that district will get together and vote on a replacement. So some states, if there's a vacancy, you'll do a special election or something like that. In Indiana, we just do caucuses, where the party people elect the replacement until the term is over. So we've had a couple of those recently here in Tippecanoe County. And I know we just had one not that long ago in the Republican Party, the same thing. They had, unfortunately, the president of the county council passed away, and so they had to do a caucus just last spring. Any questions about that? I don't know if I'm going too fast. So I wanted to have this meeting now because we're 1 month away from the reorganizing meeting, which happens every 4 years. So the March after a presidential election, the party reorganizes. On the first Saturday of March, the county central committee will be elected by the precinct chairs and the vice chairs. And they will serve a 4-year term. They then get together and this next Saturday and elect the district chairs. So we live in District 4 because we're in Congressional District 4, and so there will be an election on March 13th for the district chairs. And then on the third Saturday, which will be March 20th, the state party committee will be elected, and that will be the district chairs, and as I mentioned, those other, the DNC members, a few other people voting as well. What's exciting this year is that our state party chair, John Zodi, is stepping down. And if you're following the news at all, there's been a lot of discussion about who's going to take his place. A couple of people have thrown their names in their hat. One of them, Carly Macer, who's a former representative, has already said she was going to run and then has changed her mind. There's another woman, Trish, I want to say Trish Whitfield. Does somebody know what her name is? Trish, I can't remember off the top of my head, but she's running. And then there's another man who was doing work with Pete Buttigieg, who is also just announced that he is running. And he was asked to run, is what's been reported. So that's a little bit interesting because there's a tension going on within the party between the progressive wing and kind of the more establishment wing. And there's also a lot of unhappiness because we've not performed very well as a state party, to say the least, right? We have no statewide offices. We got shellacked in the last election. So. Let's see, what's this next question? Oh, so I drew a little timeline because I think it's helpful to think about how the timeline of how the party is organized. So in May of 2018, we elected precinct chairs. And if there were any vacancies between now and then on February 4th, that precinct list was frozen. And if there were any vacancies in that time, the party chair could go ahead and fill those vacancies. On the 4th of this month, the list was frozen. And then on the 6th of this month, we will actually elect the county chair, the vice chair, and the treasurer. And then the next week we do the district chairs, and then the following week we do the state chairs, as I mentioned. The next opportunity for a precinct chair to be elected is May of 2022, and you would have to have your candidacy form in January / first week of February of 2022. So what does this mean? This means that the party chair, it's really, the party is built in such a way to keep the people in power already in power, in my opinion. It's very hard to change some of these things, and I've met with people around the state, and you know, every county is a little bit different, but a lot of the other counties in Indiana are having finding similar things going on in their counties. The county chair's responsibility in Tippecanoe, because we have an election board, they do the election board appointments. They call caucuses for vacancies, as I mentioned earlier. They appoint the precinct committee persons and vice committee persons if there's vacancies. And of course, they do the regular things like recruiting candidates, fundraising, growing the party, getting out the vote. So are there any questions?
There's one in the chat.
Oh, I can't see the chat. Do you want to tell me what it is?
It was from Beverly.
Oh.
I was just wondering, you know, when you were talking about how the way it is structured to keep the same people in power, I know what you mean, you know, but does the Republican Party do the same thing in that particular?
So that's a perfect question, Beverly, because my next slide is, what does the Republican Party do?
Okay.
And I will tell you, I'm a lot less familiar with the Republican Party, obviously, because I am a Democrat. So I just went on their website and looked at their rules because I was curious. It's very similar to the Democrats, but there's a few things that are significantly different that I could tell. And I'll be honest, I didn't look at everything. Like, I didn't look at how they do their conventions and stuff like that. I was really interested in this. They also elect their chairs and vice chairs the first Saturday after the presidential election. However, their precinct chairs are elected in the presidential primary year. So last May of 2020, they elected their precinct chairs. Their precinct chairs and vice chairs can be the same gender, which higher up, they have to be opposite gender, just like the Democratic Party, but not at the precinct chair level or precinct committee level, however you want to call them. And their list needs to be finalized by December 15th, prior to the reorganization meeting. So they have a much shorter window of when precinct chairs get appointed. So here's a similar timeline. But you know, if you looked at the Democratic Party, this would say May 2018 instead of May of 2020. And this would say February 4th of 21 instead of December 15th of 2020. And then all these other dates, these 3 dates would be the same. And then again, this would be 4 years later from the 2020s. That would be in the presidential year. So I was a little surprised to see that, because to me, that means the Republican Party in the state is a little bit more transparent. Also, what I don't have a slide in here is I did do some research on getting the precinct list from the Republican Party, and it looks like if you're a bona fide candidate running in as a Republican, you can get the list, which is different than what is going on in the Democratic Party. I don't think it's a huge problem here in Tippecanoe around the precinct list, but this was a huge problem in Marion County recently, where they had some vacancies, and some people were wanting to run, and then there were people that were tapped by the establishment, and this made the news, and that's part of the group that I've been working with, trying to look at the rules about transparency and accessibility of the party. So the last slide I have is just a slide talking about what you can do. Okay, so if you want to find out more, I definitely encourage you to go to the Democratic webpage. You can just do a quick search on Indiana State Democrats, and there's a nice website with the rules and a lot of great information. You can attend the March 6th reorganization meeting. I don't have the details yet. Those won't come out until I think it's late this month. Anyone who is currently a precinct committee person will get a letter in the mail telling them about that. You can, in the meantime, volunteer to be a precinct chair or a vice chair. You can talk to Heather, who's the current party chair. I'm encouraging everyone to run in May of 2022 for the precinct chair. You don't have to, and there's nothing around campaign finance. It's very simple. It's not like running for office. As I mentioned, if you don't have a competitor, you don't even show up on the ballot. So a lot of people like say, I never saw anyone on my ballot like that. It's because there was never a competitive race in your district. And like I said, a vast majority of them go unfilled, are vacant, and then they have to be filled by the party chair. And then you can also go to the current party website, which is www.tibdemparty.com. I will also tell you that I have filed to run for the party chair in Tippecanoe County this year. I want to grow the party and I want to help improve fundraising. I want to empower people. It's something I'm really interested in doing. I'm going to keep doing that no matter the results of the election. I'm going to keep pushing to grow the party because I think the party does good things for people, and I want to keep. That's what I'm interested in doing. So with that, does anyone else have any questions or any?
I have a comment, Lisa. This is Beverly Matthews again. I'm in Henry County, but I'm also in the League of Women Voters, and I work with a group called Common Cause. You might be familiar with them because gerrymandering and redistricting is a huge problem in Indiana. That's another big reason why it's harder for us to go blue. And I know I just could not believe more people in Indiana voted for Trump this year than before. It just blew me away. But I'm like you, I'm not going to back down. I want to grow this party. I want to make sure young people, know about us. I want them to get involved. And I just wanted everyone to know that is out there. The League of Women Voters is nonpartisan, but Common Cause is working on these issues because especially in my district where we have Greg Pence, District 6, it's like, I don't care if they ran the green kangaroo, they would vote for them and they would get it because they have us gerrymandered all the way from Delaware County, all the way down to the Ohio River, and then some was shooting over into the middle of the state. It's just awful. And you sound like you knew that, but I just wanted others to know those are other things you could do.
Yeah. And February 18th, and I should have been a slide about this, there's a meeting, a statewide meeting that we're having about visioning the party. And there's going to be a panelist on it. Let me see if I can find exactly what time it is. It's Visions for the Democratic Party. There's a Facebook. You can find it on our Facebook page. Indivisible Greater Lafayette, but there's a bunch of individuals around the state. There are other groups, it's not just individuals, a bunch of groups around the state. We're going to have a panelist discussion talking about what we can do to grow the party and how we can make it more accessible to people. And this is part of the group that I've been working with, trying to change some of the party rules. It's at 7 p.m. And like I said, the information is on Facebook. If someone's really interested, I can find that for you and send it to you. But I think
She'll drop the link in the chat. So
that would be great. Thank you.
We have a couple of questions here in the chat.
Okay.
Susan asks, has anyone else heard about the documentary called Uncivil War about gerrymandering and suppression? Peggy Welch from Bloomington is in it. And then Cameron asks, can you cover what precinct committees need to do or precinct captains need to do a bit more? I think a lot of people don't know, and some of the establishment PCs either don't do much or aren't able.
Yeah, so I will say that in Tippecanoe County, we don't do much with precinct chairs as far as organizing, but let me show you I can just show you what the party says we should be doing. Let's see. Here's the website. You can see, and if you go into, there's a precinct committee handbook. And it basically goes through like, this is what you should be doing. And this is the highlighting, but registering voters, candidate support, canvassing, recruiting volunteers. You know, I think that if I was the party chair, I'd want to have regular meetings with the precinct chairs and help train them and help organize them. But you know, I'll be honest, we're not really doing a lot of that right now. I think because we became, I don't know if it's because we became a vote center county, but I think that precinct chairs is where it's at, man. I think that's how you grow the party. So, and I think it's empowering people. But anyhow, so that, yeah, does that answer your question? Or maybe it shows you where you can find more information, if nothing else.
Yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah. And here's all the risks. Same places where you find all the rules about how the, oops, let me just scroll up here, where you find out how the party works, the rules of the Indiana Democratic Party. So it's, you know, it's a lot to read. So I tried to summarize it in my slides.
You did a great job, Lisa. Thank you very much. This is so needed.
Well, thank you. So yeah, I encourage you all to, you know, find ways to get involved. The party definitely needs help, and I think we need to hold them accountable. So.
Can you go back to the slide about what we can do to get involved?
Yes, yes. 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 So there'll be a March 6th reorganization meeting. It'll be in the morning. I don't know. I don't think the time or place has been determined. I'm hoping it's a Zoom meeting, but I don't know.
Where does it get published? Like, where would, when you know, how do we?
I'll put it on the Tippecanoe Facebook page. I mean, it'll be on the Tippecanoe. Well, where would it show up? That's a good question. I'll know because I'm a precinct chair, and I can just put it on. It'll either be on the county page. If it doesn't show up on the county page, I'll put it on the indivisible page. I'm not sure how Heather plans on publishing it this year. That's kind of her decision, I believe.
And by the county page, do you mean the County Democratic Party page?
TipDem Party, yeah.
The actual county.
Yeah, it's tipdemparty.com.
Wait, you have a county party page?
Yeah. What county are you from?
Delaware. You probably work with Sarah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Is this who's speaking? Is this Cameron?
Cameron, yeah.
Oh, yes. Sarah and I have been working on, well, she's the one that's doing that February 18th. She's awesome.
Right. I'm the one that made the graphics for all of it. So
okay.
So I've been very familiar with that, and I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yes. Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't want to keep you longer than it needed to be. I think you got the gist of it. If you have any more questions, I'm always happy to help, or
Thank you.
all right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.